would you have any comments on that, and maybe also on the possible risk of overlap and the gray zone with the portfolio of Commissioner Várhelyi? Because I mean, Mr. Lajčák would not only focus on the dialogue, but would also have like a wider competence on Western Balkan issues. And a final question for Flutura. And Flutura, thank you very much for sharing with us also the very nice sunset, which I saw behind your window. On President Thaçi, would you think, I mean, his extreme urge to profile himself, could it also be related to a possible indictment by the specialist chambers in The Hague? Thank you very much.
Very good questions. Thank you for raising those. Who would like to start? You want to start, Annette, or should we give the floor first to Bodo? What's preferable? Bodo, maybe not too long, because we have still 18 questions more to raise. Some are double, but I would like to go through as many as we can. So if you could start and try to shorten yourself a little bit.
Okay, I'll be much more briefer. Maybe I'll leave the general enlargement question to the others on the specific Lajčák question that Andrea asked. Well, it's known that me and my colleagues were very critical of the nomination of Mr. Lajčák. I will not go, that's all online, you can read it, into the detailed argument why we think Mr. Lajčák's profile was not the one we would have chosen. I think there's only, I want to make two short comments. One is, I think the very nomination and the process of nomination of Mr. Lajčák showed a lack of imagination on behalf of policymakers in key EU capitals. And I think I think this is retroactively confirmed by what has happened of the US push and the EU being either first not visible at all, and then only in the last minute when it seemed to have been too late in the no confidence vote. And the other comment is on Mr. Lajčák's wider portfolio. I mean, that shows the whole credibility problem of the EU. Mr. Lajčák is not the most ideal candidate, so him interfering into the enlargement commissioner's portfolio is not a very convincing thing. On the other side, we have Mr. Orbán's man being the enlargement commissioner, which is also far from a convincing pick. So I think both of these issues show that the EU has a large field of need to improve on enlargement. And the last point, I hope Mr. Lajčák, because of his record of failure, will stay out of raising any initiative in Bosnia. If not, I think he will see a real thunderstorm both from Bosnia and within the EU. So I really hope he's clever enough to stay out of Bosnia.
Annette or Flutura first? Flutura, okay, go ahead, please.
So on the question of Thaçi, of course, we don't have any proof to say that all this, meaning having Thaçi being very active in trying to quickly have a deal with Serbia, is because he wants to find a way so that he doesn't end up with an indictment from the new war court. But what is known now publicly is that there are two very serious efforts led by also President Thaçi to scrap the new court. We had the first initiative on 22nd of December 2017, and I remember like today that we felt like a war was about to start. We were receiving declarations and statements from ambassadors who run basically to the parliament and try to physically stop that from happening. And secondly, recently Coaditore, a leading newspaper in Kosovo, published a letter which Fauci sent to Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State in the United States, complaining about the court. So the question is now, why is he so bothered with this court? I think, like with any other judicial system, politicians should keep their hands away from interfering with the court unless you're very afraid personally. So I think it's very important that journalists keep asking him whether what he's doing is to get away from this court, basically to save himself from this. Of course, he never answers directly to questions. He has a way of answering very indirectly and or talking very long and saying nothing. But I suspect, like any other journalist, that what he's doing is connected with a potential indictment. Lastly, I will just say that we never received any explanations towards the accusations that have been raised directly against Fauci in the last 20 years with regard to his role during the war. Again, I believe in his innocence, but I also believe that he should answer to some very grave accusations that have been made towards him by international, but also local people.
Any comments from your side, Annette, or not?
I mean, just on Mr. Lajčák, as I said before, I think we need to give it a chance. I think it's good that we have now a EUSR who is dealing with the dialogue. It is certainly a full-time job, and I think that has been understood now. It's a job which requires not only one person dealing with that. In this case, it would be Mr. Lajčák, but he also needs a dedicated team. And it's a very detailed job, because we know that we have a number of technical agreements which have been signed throughout the years. There is a need to really look into that, how much is implemented, how much is not implemented, also how these technical agreements have been phrased. Often it's a mixture of legal and political language. Some of what is in this agreement might not even be any more implementable, because the structures are simply not there anymore. I mean, these are technical agreements which were signed at a certain point of time, and we have moved on. And then, of course, there's the big political deal, which has to be done at some point. But I think some people might say it's not ideal, but I think we have to give it a chance, and to also to support this structure, what we have now and what we will hopefully see becoming stronger in the next couple of weeks and months. When it comes to coordination, as I have mentioned already before, the EU is a very complex organization, including here on the ground. And we have a EUSR here on the ground, and to my understanding, this EUSR will also stay for the time being. And yes, there is a lot of coordination needed. But I also really wanted to say that from a personal point of view, I'm actually quite happy that we have not only an envoy or an EUSR dealing with the dialogue, because the Western Balkan region is complex, and whatever you do in Kosovo or in Serbia will have an effect on other places in the Western Balkans, especially on Bosnia. And there are signals which can be easily misunderstood. And that was especially why these rumors about a land swap are so dangerous, because it is not only about Kosovo. It would have an effect on other places in the Western Balkans and maybe even in the world. So this is also why I think there is this add-on, that it's not EUSR dialogue, but it is actually Western Balkans. So, I mean, my point, what I just wanted to make, is to give it a chance and to support it. And that we can see something good coming out of that. When it comes to President Sachi, I know that there are a lot of rumors out there. I mean, we cannot and we will not intervene in the work of the specialized chambers. This is an independent, and by the way, Kosovo court, which is of course very unique because it's not situated in Kosovo, but it's situated in Den Haag with a lot of international staff. We also know that a lot of Kosovars are not happy with that court. I mean, there were attempts already. I mean, we've seen that and at very special times. I mean, it was one time even at the Christmas when most internationals were out. There were attempts from the government basically to demolish that more or less. So we know that, we know. But as I said, it's an independent institution, and then if Mr. Sachi is called there or not, this is not something, at least from my position as a EU staff member, I can speculate. And I also think if this is the case, I mean, then there will be competent people really to handle that issue. I understand that an analyst or someone from a civil society can also have different opinions on that. But for me, from the EU side, for us, this is a completely different institution, and we are not collaborating on that. But of course, we want that justice is made, and then whoever is put in front of that court, will also be dealt with. Sorry, I see that I'm too long.
Yeah, because I see all my questions on the list, and we have less than 25 minutes. Flutura, you have a question actually concerning Mr. Lajčák anyway. It is sent by Klaus P. I'm supposed not to name the family names because we would like to respect the privacy rights. So that's why I say Klaus P. And there's another Klaus later. So there's a question to you directly. What about and how about the credibility of Miroslav Lajčák, who as a former foreign minister of Slovakia did not manage in Slovakia that the country acknowledged Kosovo? Is there a problem when he will be the one to bring Kosovo and Serbia to the table again, besides the problem that the Trump administration is posing to the whole process? So now you can make another comment on Mr. Lajčák and the dialogue.
Excellent opportunity to share kind of a personal experience. As I said, I travel quite often to Bratislava because of the court case that I'm monitoring, and as a result, all my friends there are journalists, investigative journalists from Actuality.sk, Denik, and SME, all these leading newspapers. So when we go there, first of all, when I went there 2 years ago, I was very surprised how much they know about Kosovo. Like they know Thoci and Albin and Isa, Mustafa, all of them, and they know all their stories because of course they're journalists, but that also means that they cover quite a lot what happens in Kosovo. And of course, working with journalists, I'm very curious, and sometimes I feel like an investigative journalist. I ask a lot of them, what do they think about Miroslav Lajčák? Because I didn't know him, and I don't know him personally, and I didn't follow him before, so I was very ignorant. And I was positively surprised to hear from all of them saying that he's a decent politician. He's very respected in Slovakia, and they truly believe he will do a very good job in Kosovo. And it's not common to have investigative journalists praising someone. Really, trust me on this. Like investigative journalists, they would always find something to complain, some deals, some statements they made. On this, they were quite united. So this is how I heard about Mr. Lajčák, and also I truly believe and agree with the statements that were made by EU representatives that he does not present himself personally, and he does not present Slovakia. To put all the burden of the policies of Slovakia in one man, it's not fair to be very open. It's not fair to accuse one person in for having Slovakia not recognizing Kosovo. Whether he voted personally in terms of raising a hand or pushing a button against our membership in UNESCO, it really doesn't matter, because I don't think it was his personal opinion. What the position that I have as an activist, I want to give him the chance to prove himself. And if need be, after a year, I'll be very happy to praise or name and shame him, depending on the work that he has done. To give you one more, maybe I shouldn't compare, but just to say, with regard to Federica Mogherini, in the beginning, we were very supportive of her. And then towards the end of her mandate, I didn't really like her. I felt very often that she was discriminating between two countries. And also I could refer to specific statements or positions that she had. So to conclude on Mr. Lajčák, we should give him the chance to prove himself. And then, I don't know, after 6 months or 1 year, we review his work, and then we decide what type of service he has provided.
Well, there's another question by Klaus P., this time to Annette. It says, when you say Kosovo Albanians are in the driver's seat, whom do you attribute this to, Thaçi or to whom? I think we have already almost responded or replied to this, but maybe you would like to make another comment. Who is in the driver's seat when we speak about their brain?
Sorry, when you talk about what? Say it again.
When you say Kosovo Albanians are in the driver's seat,
yeah,
who do you mean?
Kosovars. I mean, Kosovars are in the, and we have here a country. Yes, we have many Kosovo Albanians, but we have also Kosovo Serbs, and we have other minorities. And we should also not forget, when we're talking about issues like the dialogue, I mean, the main two parties are the Kosovars on one side, and then of course the Serbs. And I mean, the EU, yes, has an important role as a facilitator, but in the end of the day, I mean, the two parties also need to deliver. I mean, the same is for a stable government. I mean, again, this is where the locals are in the driver's seat. I mean, we are not here dictating. This is not how the EU works. I mean, we can try to support, but we are not dictating here. And this is something, in the end of the day, and this is also when I was really was mentioning the SAA and the reforms, it's for the benefit of the people. I mean, this year is a democracy. There are elections. And Viola, you know it better than I do, but the election, especially E-Day, I mean, there were problems before and after. I don't want to go into details, but the elections as such were credible. So, I mean, people voted a government, and then, yes, these people need to deliver. It's not then the EU in the driving seat, it is the locals.
Okay.
So I don't want to push the responsibility back, but we cannot, and this is often unfortunately what happens when it comes to this EU bashing. The EU didn't do this or that, but we really also need to see that we have to have counterparts and we need to work together.
Okay, there's another question also addressed to you directly. That is, what is the stand of Mrs. Fath-Lihic on the recent statement made by the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs regarding the reciprocity measures introduced by Kosovo government, which considers the EU ecstatic reaction odd, since, as one of the mediators, the EU should respond with a sober assessment of the situation without favoring either party. We kind of responded to this. Would you like to? Yeah, we responded to this. Okay. So, and we responded to a question of Adriana, which was about the land swap, and this was more or less to me, but I do not want to go into each of the details. So here's another question of Klaus L. It says the US is also leading the negotiations for peace talks between Kosovo and Serbia with Richard Grenell, while the EU has appointed a special representative, Mr. Lajčák. There is a sense of rivalry between the US and the EU, who to lead the peace talks. Do you think there's a possibility that the US will reach an agreement before the EU does? And what's your position? And the EU tailing over the new role in the dialogue?
I think we answered that question already.
Yes, we answered this, and we do hope that the EU will be in the driver's seat. And yes,
it will.
There's a question by Arbiza. Why the EU credibility has fallen so low in Kosovo, and to what extent the EU is responsible for this state of affairs when the majority of political parties are neglecting the role of the EU in dialogue?
I think we responded, but I'll just ask back. Of course, I know he cannot answer, but I don't know how they measure whether the credibility of EU is low or high. I think it's of course a matter of perception, but I'm not aware of any study which shows, you know, that the credibility of EU has fallen and that now we don't believe anymore in the EU. Anyway, but I think we answered already to this question.
If I may just add a half sentence comment, I think not, you know, wanting to defend the EU here on its lack of credibility, but I think the US move on March 24, 25 was probably the biggest hit to US credibility and support among Kosovars, at least among part of the Kosovars we've seen since '99. So I think this should be mentioned too here.
You mean to start accession talks?
No, I mean the toppling of the government.
Not to support.
Has been a huge hit to US credibility in Kosovo, maybe to a degree unseen since '99.
Yeah. So there's an oral question by Elion. Maybe we can give him the floor and try to unmute him. This is related to Corona. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us? Perfect. Please raise your question.
Yes. Sorry, I also wrote the question, but I didn't know I was going to get asked to speak, but I don't mind. Thank you. Thanks for hosting this. So my question is this. This is for all, and whoever feels free to answer. I am Elion. I am from Pristina, Kosovo. What is your take on the COVID-19 outbreak and the relation with anti-globalization movements? Will this give a rise to populist movements in the EU, and how does this challenge the EU enlargement process in the Western Balkans? Thank you.
Well, who would like to have the floor first? Is there a chance? Annette, please.
I think Annette, the floor is yours.
Yeah,
well.
I can maybe start, but it's a difficult one, so please help me. I think we are just at the beginning of this whole saga. I think it will, the economic impact will be huge. We see it already. Yes, I mean, there is, of course, an impact also when it comes to not only how we live, but also maybe our values and our whole way of living will change. And how much it impacts organizations like the European Union, it's yet to be seen. But we also know that often, and that is also again a bit historical, I mean, in crisis and after a crisis, the EU came out actually stronger, because people realized that if we work together, we really can help each other, and then we can also recover faster. I'm not saying that this is the case. I also know that there was a lot of criticism within the EU. Also, there was criticism from the Western Balkans, and when it came to very concrete issues like supply of certain items which are in need now, that they cannot be shipped outside the EU, etc., etc. It's not yet over. We have to see what it's coming, and maybe really our lives will change, but they can also change to a more positive way. And I have mentioned, and this is very close to my heart, the environment. Maybe if we are not anymore traveling for a 1 hour conference all over the world, and we just exercising a conference or a webinar, and it also works. So I think it can also have a positive impact, and it can make us rethink and maybe also to create something new, what is better than what has happened in the past. And I mean, in the historical context, it often happened that some pandemics actually either speeded up some political processes which were already in the making, or something completely new was created afterwards. But this is what we have to see, and I think it's up to us really to shape this.
Maybe a little bit 2 or 3 political remarks to this. What I see and what we observe is actually the opposite, because populists do not have a chance. If they neglect scientific and research, scientific facts, they will never win. And you see how actually Putin and the others are struggling in this pandemic, and how worse their performance is. I mean, still they have a lot of trust because you stand behind your government mainly, but you will see in the midterm and in the long run they will lose. You see, I was surprised actually how much credibility our government gained back during the last weeks. And you see in each talk shows, it's completely dominated by medical practitioners, by virologists, by epidemiologists, and by all kinds of researchers. So people are really keen to understand what's going on, and there is no Trump, no Erdogan, no I don't know, Fauci or anybody will explain to them what and how can we fight this pandemic. So in that respect, I see actually also our right-wing party, the AfD in Germany, is, for God's sakes, losing 3-4 points or percent. I don't know, but I could imagine that people start to understand they need serious politicians, they need decision makers who understand what they are doing, working together with people from the, let's say, fact-based, evidence-based research area, and these are not the populists. So this would be my little political comment on this. And when it comes to EU, we started late. We do not have the competence on the EU level for crisis management. We do not have the competence for health prevention. That was a big mistake, and I think it is recognized by the president of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and by others. So we try to catch up with, in terms of procurement, what Annette has mentioned, but also in terms of coordination, where to transport the patients and so on. So it's slowly catching up. Of course, China was imposing export restrictions to the European Union while they had the crisis. And during that time, they were increasing their capacities to 160 million masks per day. And when their situation has improved, they were, of course, able to export that in an enormous amount, where they had before restrictions, what we started to order. So that was a really mean thing also in terms of disinformation. And I think it is also up to the European Union to finally start to communicate much clearer and better what are they doing, what have they done before, and why things are not working. And in that we are very, very poor still. It is too weak, it is not enough, it is not clear, and we do not really fight this disinformation, propaganda things from Russia, from China, from other bigger external actors. And of course, when it comes to the West Balkan, and you see Vucic kissing the mask from China, yeah, while our equipment is much bigger, is much more precise, is from the quality in a better, let's say, in quality terms, much higher. he sends his prime minister and nobody cares about this. And this is, of course, something we should also mention. We should communicate, Mr. President, if you really aspire to have an accession path to the European Union, we do not accept this attitude. And so I wish the European Union would tackle those behavior a little bit harsher than they have done it in the past. But this is my personal impression, because I cannot accept being betrayed by this populist authoritarian regimes in general. So now there are some more questions. Yes, Flutura, you want to add something?
30 seconds. I just wanted to mention that we, of course, it's too early to know the impact, but what we know now and what is very important is the role of journalists in keeping us informed. We are reading and we are hearing a lot of conspiracy theories, and I think it is very important for journalists to provide responsible, ethical journalism and to provide us information which are factual and which are based on official information. Now, in the Balkans, we're very famous of, spreading disinformation and propaganda. But I think during this time, especially in Kosovo, journalists have done quite a good job. But also we see different newspapers and different members of the European Union doing quite a good work in terms of informing citizens.
Very good. So I get a remark here is Fatmir. He has raised his hand from the very beginning, but there were so many people raising their hands and putting on questions. I would like to give him the floor as the last one in the row. Can we hear him?
Hello?
Yes? Yes, please raise your question, Fatmir.
Yeah, you can hear me. Thank you. Yeah, I've got a question for Flora Kusari. President of Kosovo has confirmed in the meeting with Vučić in Altbach. He confirmed he's in favor of border correction. When I'm looking at the constitutional law in Kosovo, it states paragraph 1, article 1, paragraph 1 and 3, that it says, I'm going to read it in Albanian, Republika Kosovo shteti panvorë, sovran, demokratik, connect dhe I pandashon. So he tried to, obviously in favor to correct border correction. Did he break the constitutional law, article 1 and paragraph 1, and also paragraph 3, which states as well border protection? And also, is anybody to take him to the court and obviously to get rid of him, because he's danger to Europe and whole Balkan, not only to Albanians. Thank you.
Wow, Flutura.
Thank you.
Would you like to take over this question?
Yes, my answer might be a bit disappointing. I think the question that the gentleman is asking is a question for the Constitutional Court and for those who have the authorization to send him to court. I think it's everybody knows that President Thaçi has made quite a lot of public statements showing that he would be in favor of border correction. Of course, he changes his mind depending on the political momentum, but I think it's no secret that he has already said that he wouldn't object to that. Whether he violated the constitution just by saying that, again, it's not a question that I would be able to answer. It's a matter of Constitutional Court. If that would qualify to be challenged to the court. Just to say, this is a question that we discuss every single day in public debates in Kosovo, and I don't think we found a solution to that. And also, let's not forget, President Thaçi has good advisor. He's been in power quite for some years now, so he's very careful the way he plays around. So it's not very easy to send him and to challenge him before courts.
So now we are actually at the very end of our webinar, which is a bit pity because there are many interesting questions were sent in by many people who are watching us. I hope they are not too disappointed But since we have this platform actually only for 2 hours, and I get already signals and messages by different people that we have to come to an end, what I can propose is that we will respond to this question and put them when we send our webinar online. So there will be, this is streamed, and it will be an online version, and we will try to answer those questions which reach to us in the written form, and we'll put this in the comments, so at least you get an answer from us. But for now, unfortunately, even if I would like to go ahead, we have to close now, and I'm very grateful. I thank everyone, not just my distinguished speakers for tonight, for I was very happy that they agreed and participated, but also from all of you. Most of you have stayed until the very end. Thanks for this. Even if we come to some nitty-gritty details to the Kosovo domestic politics, we started by enlargement and we ended up, as we had expected this, in the domestic questions of Kosovo. I think it was worth watching, and I really enjoyed each of you. And I hope we can continue with this, not just because of the Corona crisis, but even after this. I like this format. I'm looking forward to meet you, hopefully also in person, either in Pristina or in Belgrade or in Berlin or in Brussels, wherever. Thanks a lot for now. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep us updated what's going on in your region. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.